Signs that you are a victim of narcissistic abuse and are in a toxic relationship. First and foremost, I really don't like the term victim. All right. So though I am going to use its reference in the video, if you were able to get away from that, if you were able to release yourself from that, if you were able to detoxify yourself from that, you're not a victim. You're a survivor. Okay. And you should be proud of yourself for that. What people need to understand is that no two relationships are alike. And depending upon the type of breakup you had, if you're breaking up with someone who has suffered severe trauma throughout their life and created a trauma bond with that person, the type of breakup that is way more severe than any other breakup in the history. Now, a victim of narcissistic abuse is the end result of unhealed trauma passed on to them by another individual, the narcissist. So, in layman's terms, if the person you're dealing with happens to be a narcissist or has NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, understand something. That person has unresolved trauma, unresolved issues. So everything that's projected onto you throughout the relationship is a result of them not healing those issues, not healing the trauma. As much as you would want to get mad, as much as you would feel angry and hurt and disgusted, which you have every right to, because you did not warrant any kind of behavior that was passed on to you. We're going to get into the signs. Sign number 1, you experience dissociation as a survival mechanism. Basically, you detach yourself from your environment. You detach yourself and you numb yourself. You numb your emotions so you don't have to come to terms with your reality. Dissociation basically triggers emotional numbing. Okay? You don't want to deal with the reality of things. So you replace it with mind-numbing activities like addictions, obsessions. You even start to live a life of repression because you want to just basically tune out of what actually is going on. Your brain finds ways to block out the pain in order to not deal with the full terror of the circumstances. You then develop traumatized inner parts. And basically what that is you become disjointed from the personality that you inhibited with your abuser. Okay? And, this would include inner child trauma when, you weren't nurtured as a child. The true anger and disgust that you feel with your abuser. And, parts of yourself that you can't express around them. It triggers all of that. So you have to be very careful, because if you don't handle that, if you don't try to release and you don't try to properly heal yourself, you're going to repress everything. And then what happens? You get triggered. When you get triggered, all of it comes out. And you end up actually becoming the monster that created you. Sign number 2. You're walking on eggshells. Now we got to understand that common symptoms of trauma is avoiding anything that represents reliving the trauma. Okay, if it means, avoiding people, places, or activities that pose as a threat. When you're walking on eggshells, you're basically trying to avoid confrontation with your abuser. So you're trying to keep an even keel of things. You're trying to keep everything just steady. However, you find out that doesn't work. You're still a punching bag. You're still an emotional punching bag for your abuser. Okay, no matter how much you try to avoid it, no matter how much you try to play nice, no matter how much you try to be a people pleaser, the abuser feels entitled. And they can abuse you at any given time, which includes verbal abuse, emotional, psychological, even physical abuse. Okay? And you become continuously anxious and trying not to provoke the abuser. Try not to say something that you feel is going to offend them or you think is going to offend them, which can basically create a big blowout. So just so you know, any other relationship, you've never experienced that. But if you've experienced it at least once, it was not a regular breakup, okay? It was a breakup with someone that you have created a trauma bond with, all right? I'm going to do a video on that too, because we definitely need to learn about that. Next time, you develop a pervasive sense of mistrust. Everybody's a threat to you now, okay? You do not trust anyone at all. You are severely and extremely guarded. Since you have been in a relationship or relationships, depending, that has been so filled with manipulation, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, your abuser has gaslit you so much to the point that you can't decipher real from fiction. You can't decipher good from bad. You trust no one. You begin to not even trust yourself. Next sign is you develop suicidal ideas and self-harming tendencies. So basically, you're at a point where you feel complete hopelessness. Okay? Besides depression and anxiety, you just feel like everything is just completely unbearable and you just don't want to deal anymore. Unfortunately, I'm all too familiar with this, okay? This is a way that an abuser can actually commit murder without even being traced to them. Because psychological abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, it gives you a feeling of not wishing to survive, okay? And it's crazy. Hear this. I'm going to read this to you, okay? Victims of intimate partner violence are twice as likely to attempt suicide multiple times. Talk to someone. Confide in someone, okay? Because even if you're a victim, you can always get to survivor mode. It's not as hard as you think, okay? Self-harm, not worth it. Trust me, I know. Not worth it. Taking your own life, not worth it. Okay? I have attempted to do that before. Okay? And I even had it thrown at me in my face. Trust me, you're good. Self-isolation. Though abusers tend to isolate their victims, victims tend to isolate themselves. Okay? They isolate themselves because they're embarrassed by the abuse that they've endured. And given that there are so many misconceptions by society about, emotional and psychological abuse, the victim is in victim blaming mode where, they're blaming themselves. The abuser is blaming them. And, the victim can be re-traumatized. They can be re-traumatized by coming across law enforcement, friends, family, okay? Any little thing can trigger them. Even people that are in relation to the abuser, because in their mind, nobody will believe them. In their mind, it's, I've been led to believe that it's all my fault. The abuser led me to believe it's my fault. They're telling other people that it's my fault. Who's going to believe me? So what they do is they isolate themselves. They isolate themselves from everybody because they have the mind of, nobody's going to believe me. The next sign, you find yourself comparing yourself to others. And this is often to the extent of blaming yourself for the abuse. Narcissists are known for creating love triangles. They're known for bringing in another party, a third party. Okay, not only does that, reduce your self-esteem, your confidence, but it makes you feel like you're not good enough. Okay, and when a narcissist cheats on you, or if they bring other people around you shamelessly, whatever the case may be, it puts you in that stance of, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough. And it makes you even compete for the attention of the abuser, of, whomever it is that's manipulating you, because you're living in the mind frame of, I'm not good enough. They find themselves comparing themselves to other people in happier, healthier relationships. And oftentimes they wonder why the abuser treats complete strangers or, external people with more respect and not the victim. To a narcissist, you are their property. You are an object. So if you see that they are treating you with disrespect, with their respecting everyone else, that is a clear-cut sign that you are with a mental and emotional abuser, and you need to get the hell out of that ASAP. The next sign is self-sabotage and self-destruct. Now, the abuser has already instilled in the victim's head, in their mind, that they are worthless. Okay? They're not worthy of anything. They've already branded them with that. They traumatized them with that. Okay, so the victim will continually live with the abuse and the idea that they are worthless, they are no good, they are not enough. So if the victim, prime example, if the victim is able to get out of that situation, that dynamic, and they try to get into something else, okay, I'm sure we're all familiar with this. They try to get into another relationship or whatever the case may be. They will end up self-sabotaging. They will end up sabotaging the relationship, and they will end up diminishing any possibility of growth. So due to the constant verbal abuse, due to the put downs, the letdowns, due to the toxic shame that the abuser has inflicted on the victim will then basically take that and run with it. And they'll basically believe that they are not worthy, that they are worthless, that they are not good enough. Malignant narcissists, they have instilled in their victims that they are not only not worthy, but they've programmed them to self-destruct. Okay? The victims of a malignant narcissist, if done enough, if the abuse is done enough, well enough, can drive the victim to suicide. Look at my other video, what I told you about malignant narcissists. They are considered toxic narcissists. And finally, you find yourself protecting your abuser, even gaslighting yourself. You sit there and say, oh, they're not so bad. I mean, maybe they had a bad day, or maybe it was this. You make excuses for them. You keep them around you because the abuse is all you really know. You've already created that trauma bond. You've already created that attachment. So now you start to defend them because you're already so caught up into it. You're so deep into it that the abuse is becoming justifiable. It's becoming routine. It's becoming something to where even you start to say to yourself, well, maybe I did do this to provoke that. Maybe I did say something for them to say that to me. All of this is simply to avoid cognitive dissonance, okay? Because you're focused on this person says they love me. To a narcissist, you are yet again an object to them, okay? Because they have been conditioned to believe that they are merely objects, and they're passing that on to you. I really, really want to help people, who are going through it, because I know the pain, and that's the kind of pain you wouldn't even want your enemy to go through. And just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. Whatever you're facing, you're not alone. And so as long as I live and breathe, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep putting it out there, and I'm going to keep motivating people because you guys motivate me. There are so many people going through it, so many stories that I've heard that have really, really motivated me to go even harder. And that's what I plan on doing. I plan on keeping it factual, as always, putting out the statistics, putting out the studies, putting out the real deal of things, because you all deserve that. We all deserve that. We all deserve happiness. We all deserve love. And we all deserve to know that we are worthy. We're valuable. So stay tuned for my next video, guys. Love you all. Always. Namaste.